All right, good afternoon. So welcome to one more video on the topic of resultant. Okay, so this is, pertaining to vectors and mechanics. Okay, so you will use it pretty often. So the situation is that you have this octagon, and this octagon, there are three diagonals of the octagon that represent three forces. You're supposed to find the resultant of this force, and this force, okay? The three forces, and you're supposed to draw their, find the resultant and its direction. So your goal is to find resultant, okay? And you are expected to find the direction of the resultant. Now, the problem is not the concept of resultant and direction. I think you can do resolution. The problem is, since this is an octagon, a lot of people would struggle because the knowledge of trigonometry would be lacking. So let's understand the octagon. Now, if you remember, the octagon, if you draw all these diagonals, I'm just completing the shape of a octagon. So this, if you draw the first one too, which is not part of the force, this is not a force. I'm just trying to explain your geometry. This angle, the whole angle is 135 degrees, right? So which is the internal angle, the internal angle of an octagon, right? So that is pretty well like taught in class 8th or 9th, right? So, but if you look into this angle number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and maybe 6, so segment number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each one of them, is 135 degrees divided by 6 is equal to 22.5 degrees. So each one of them is 22.5 degrees. This is 22.5. 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 And so is this. I'm being particularly attentive to the fact that I'm, focusing on the angle and trying to understand the octagon. Now let's talk about the force number 1. If you look at the force number 1, there are two 22.5s, which is inclined to the coordinate axis. If you just want to complete my coordinate axis, that's the way maybe I draw this, and trying to show you. So this is my coordinate axis, okay? That's my origin. And I'm just going to use the knowledge of resolution. So my first force is 6 Newton. And with the knowledge of octagon, I'm able to find out that the angle it makes with the x-axis is 45 degrees. It is actually 22.5 plus 22.5. This one, this one plus this one. Let's talk about 8 newtons. The 8 Newton, is one more 22.5. So 22.5, 22.5, and 22.5, which makes it 67.5. And let's talk about 4 newtons. Obviously this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So which means we're talking about 4 newtons at 22.5 multiplied by 5. If I just multiply this, I'll get some number which is 5 5s are 12, 10, 12, 1, and 112.5 degrees. So what you get now, the angle of inclination of 6 newtons, 8 newtons, and 4 newtons. All the three angles are known to you. What you're doing now as a strategy is splitting these up, in x and y components. And so you can write, the x component of the force, and you can write the y component of the force. Just pretty straightforward. So this is 6 cos 45 degrees, and you can see 6 is getting split like this. Right? 6 is towards the positive axis and towards the y-axis, right? So this is your 6 sine 45 degrees. Similarly, 8 newtons is again 8 cos 65 and 8 sine 67.5. So I can split that also. 8 cos 67.5 and 8 sine 67.5. And when I talk about 4 newtons, 4 newtons is in this direction. So the way you resolve this is on the left hand side, which is negative x-axis. So this becomes your 4 cos 112.5. I'm not adding any sign. my for sine, 112.5 degrees. So if I want to write this here, I can put it here and I can write this as 4 cos 22.5 and 4 sine 22.5 degrees, right? Now what is left of it? You just need to calculate the sigma fx and then calculate sigma fy. This obviously is going to be negative now because, I'm sorry, this I should have written this as 112.5. So this becomes 112.5 and this also becomes 112.5 degrees, right? So this is going to be positive because it's, upwards. You can see the force is upwards, the 4 Newton force. And then you can see, you can algebraically add all these. You can algebraically so your resultant is going to be under root of, sigma fx square plus sigma fy square. And if you want to find the direction, the direction of the resultant of all these is going to be tan alpha. The alpha is the angle of resultant with the x-axis, can be written as the sigma fy, which is sum of this divided by sigma fx. All right. A lot of students would know how to calculate, the whole thing about resultant, but likely what's going to happen is, the fact that you are like struck because now what you get as a figure is a figure of octagon. And, if you don't have sufficient knowledge of octagon, you may get struck. So if you're preparing for, an exam like JEE, or you are preparing for an exam like NEET, or you are a student of, any other board, which is, IB board, or you're part of A-level physics, or you're doing honors in physics, and you're doing the topic of mechanics, I think a good strategy will always be to, always concentrating on the concept of geometry. I think geometry helps you tremendously solve, such numericals pretty fast. I hope this helped. And if you liked it, please send me your feedback. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for your attention.